What's up? It's Tom. Let's talk about where the Twins are at right now. Let's take stock. This basically changes on a game-by-game basis. So let's take a look here. The Twins hanging on to win an extra inning game in Cleveland. Starting off hyper-focused on this game, and then we'll zoom out as we go. Again, a 3-1 victory, a 12-inning game in Cleveland that they win. I highlighted those numbers there, showing that the Twins managed to avoid getting walked off in 4 consecutive innings in Cleveland. There is something different going on here, and this is a sign from the universe that maybe things have changed. Taj Bradley was outstanding in this game, going toe-to-toe with Gavin Williams, who was just remarkable, just disgusting. For the Twins to pull out a win in a game where the opposing team's starting pitcher was as good as Gavin Williams is pretty dang impressive. So a great win for the Twins today on Thursday afternoon. Again, 12-inning victory. Probably could spend a whole video on that, but we're taking stock of the whole situation here, taking a look at the whole picture. This series, the Twins come back to split the series after losing the first 2 games. Honestly, I did not think that was possible after they lost on Monday. I thought Monday's game was essentially a must-win game. That was the best starting pitching matchup the Twins had, and that was the game that Joe Ryan just got clobbered. Then the next day, I knew they were doing a bullpen game that ended up being Kendry Rojas and Mike Paredes. So that was, guys put up a fight, but that was kind of an easy one to think that the advantage was to Cleveland. Bailey Ober pitches yesterday. The Twins win. Ober not pitching really deep into games, not pitching his best, but, getting by with what he has. I'm still not super confident when he's out there, but the Twins are, I think, 9-6 in games that he started this year. So it's not like he pitches his way out, the Twins out of games all that often. And then today's game, again, we discussed that, a 3-1 extra innings win to split the series. In this road trip, zooming out even further, the Twins, it feels like things were worse because they lost 4 straight games. They really struggled to score runs, especially in those 4 losses, but really this whole road trip. But overall, if you're going to Wrigley and then to Cleveland for a 7-game road trip, I think going 3-4 overall is kind of like what you would have hoped you would walk away with. Obviously it would have been great to win this road trip. But I think this going 3-4 keeps you in the conversation of, what are we going to do? Should we go for it? Should we try to add some pieces to try to stay in this hunt? And I think they did enough on this road trip to keep that conversation going. Speaking of the Twins on the road, this is their last 6 road series, but they are now 12-7 in their past 6 road series, all of which have been against playoff contenders. So this team is winning on the road. I think that's a difference maker between, especially these teams in the middle, like the Twins are. I think that's a big differentiator between some of these teams is, can you win on the road? And I think if you can, and if you're consistently doing it, I think that you probably have more staying power than a team that isn't. Also want to call out, you see the Yankees in there. You probably heard that was the first time the Twins won a series at Yankee Stadium, I think since 1994. Is that what I've jotted down? This was the first time they've had a winning record in Cleveland since 2021. I'm checking my notes. So, in addition to splitting this series, they'd won a road series in Cleveland earlier this year. So they end up being 4-3 in Cleveland. The last time the Twins both had a winning record at Yankee Stadium and a winning record in Cleveland was 1991. So there is clearly, we're getting hyper-focused on 10 games. I understand that. But I'm trying to illustrate is there is an X factor about this team that we have not seen with a lot of Minnesota Twins, even the better Twins teams. Didn't show this kind of resiliency on the road. Didn't show this kind of resiliency in extra inning games in Cleveland. Didn't show this kind of resiliency at Yankee Stadium and Cleveland, whatever they're calling their ballpark at the moment. So, there's some things just beyond them staying in the race and things beyond just the games back, whatever. But obviously, we're going to zoom out further and talk about the division. The Twins now, again, not losing ground on Cleveland. That was really key. They didn't lose ground. They didn't gain ground, but they didn't lose ground in a road series at Cleveland. They are still 3 games behind Cleveland and 4.5 behind Chicago in the division. That isn't in the realm of you feel like you're going to go for it. Before being honest, there's 60 games left. Is it that difficult to envision the Twins being 4.5 games better than the White Sox / Guardians? No, but it could go extremely the other way too. So I think that's just sort of the state of this division right now. And maybe I've not been giving Chicago enough credit. That is a good looking team. Again, it's not like the division is close enough where you really put the pedal down and buy like crazy, but it's not out of the question. Zooming out more, this wild card race. Twins are 2.5 back in the wild card race. Now the tricky thing is, you have your games back, but then there's all these teams in the hunt. Even Detroit, I'm going to keep in this. Even Toronto, they're probably a little bit extreme, but they're only game and a half back at Detroit, who I still think is in this conversation. There's a lot left of baseball. We have to keep this in mind. The trade deadline is such a line in the sand, and you do have to make decisions at the trade deadline. There is a lot of baseball left. There are 2 months of baseball left. A lot can happen. So you got to keep that in mind. But the Twins only 2.5 games back in the wild card. The tricky thing is as the Red Sox have really gotten it together, sort of the saving grace for any kind of Twins conversations have been how bad the American League is. And so any other team that really gets in gear, like the Red Sox have, is going to present more obstacles, more challenges for the Twins to find a pathway into this final wild card spot. The Twins, we can't just be sitting here talking about, oh, hey, they went 3-4 on a road trip. At some point, I do think they need to catch a hot streak and really rattle off a bunch of wins. Nobody's going to do what the Red Sox did, I don't think. I think they do need to kind of hit their stride for a bit if they're going to elevate themselves into the wild card picture securely, because it's less to do with the Twins needing to do that. It's more, I think, another team's going to do that. I think it's inevitable. One of these other teams is going to click, and in order for you to stay in this conversation, you also need to kind of pick up the pace. But this dream lives another day. That's my takeaway from this Cleveland series. The only 2 things we know for sure, the Twins aren't going to be aggressive buyers. It's not like they're going to flip top prospects to invest in this year's team. But I think we know for sure they're not going to have a fire sale either. That's about all we know at the moment, though. They really need to take care of business in these next 2 home series against the A's and Royals. That really should be an easy task for them. But, we've seen other Twins teams in this window where you're within striking distance of the wild card, within range of the trade deadline, and these games get kind of hyper-focused, hyper-tension, and the Twins completely fall apart and lose to teams that are out of the race, like the A's and Royals are in right now. So they really need to take care of business in this home series, keep it rolling after these 2 wins at Cleveland, build that momentum against these 2 teams that are not in the races. And then they're going to head out to Seattle for their final series before the deadline. As you saw in those wild card standings, Seattle's also right there. Seattle, a good West Coast team that's always tough to travel out west. A good team at home. So that's going to be a tricky one. So it's not like that much can change. But if some team, again, the Red Sox getting hot for 2 weeks dramatically changed this wild card picture. If somebody else catches fire like that, this could be a much different picture than when we're looking at by that time, by the deadline. August 3rd, by the way. Remember, it's a little bit later than usual this year. The pivot guys, Ryan Jeffers and Trevor Larnach, I think, are the 2 guys who have the biggest question on this next stretch here. Does it go well? Does it go poorly? And some people are going to say, what do you mean? Jeffers is a pending free agent. They're going to trade him for sure either way. I think that would be a mistake to take that stance if they continue to stay in the race. Think about it. if the 10th Twins are a competitive team, you're talking about potentially trading Ryan Jeffers to another competitive team. That team knows he's a pending free agent, and they still want him. So why does it seem so crazy that a contending Twins team has to get rid of Ryan Jeffers? That it's a crazy idea that they would hold Ryan Jeffers despite him being a pending free agent. I don't get that logic. I also think I would give him a qualifying offer at the end of the year. And keep in mind, there's kind of a lot of uncertainty over the winter about, the new collective bargaining agreement and lockouts and all that stuff. That happens after the entire qualifying offer process is over. So that's all under the current CBA. We don't have to worry about that. That is a thing this year for sure. Beyond that, who knows? So Jeffers, I would offer him a qualifying offer. That sounds crazy because it's going to be $23 million. I don't think any of us really thinks of Ryan Jeffers as quite that valuable. But two guys that got the qualifying offer last year, I think he stacks up to very nicely would be Gleyber Torres and Trent Grisham. So it's not like players of his, it's not like the elite of the elite guys who are going to sign $100 million contracts are getting qualifying offers. Guys like Ryan Jeffers get qualifying offers sometimes. And I think he's still in his prime as a catcher. I don't know that you want to get locked into a 30-plus-year-old catcher in a multi-year deal. This is kind of a nice situation for the Twins to be in, that he's playing well. They can just give him a qualifying offer. There's a chance he would reject it. And you're going to get a draft pick compensation then anyway, which might end up being more valuable than the prospects you traded for him. You wouldn't be losing him for nothing if you gave him the qualifying offer and he said he declined it. And if you give him the qualifying offer and he accepts it, you say, all right, Tom Pohlad, well, put your money where your mouth is. This is a lot to pay a guy. This is a lot to pay a catcher. But you know what? You're talking a big game about wanting to compete. One of the things a competing team would do is keep Ryan Jeffers and give him the qualifying offer. So, if you want to win, if that's the focal point right now, winning teams would hold on to Ryan Jeffers and give him the qualifying offer. So that, I think that should definitely be on the table right now. Trade, again, I'm calling him a pivot man because I think trading him, is a possibility that, 10 days from now or whatever it is, we're going to take stock like we are right now and say, well, probably makes sense to trade Ryan Jeffers. I think it could. Who knows? And also it depends on how committed the Twins are to winning this year or next year. Larnach, a bit of a different situation since he is not a free agent next year. He is under team control still next year, but a guy having a career year right now, but also a guy who is kind of in the way still. And we've been saying this about Trevor Larnach for a while now. There's just so many other left-handed hitting outfielders in this org right now. Walker Jenkins is ready. Walker Jenkins is ready whenever the Twins want to go to him. He's not ready to replace Trevor Larnach's production. We can't expect that because Trevor Larnach has been really good. Can't hit lefties, so he's a strong side platoon guy, but he has been really good for the Twins. Again, if they're sitting in a good spot and there looks like there's an avenue for them to stay in the race, I would keep him. Speaking of which, I'm not even putting Joe Ryan on this because I don't think they can trade Joe Ryan. I think that would fall into the fire sale category, which I don't think we're going to see. Again, I think we could have a logical debate on whether the best baseball strategy would be to trade Joe Ryan and cash him out and get as much as you can, because you could get a haul for Joe Ryan right now. There's no denying that he would be incredibly marketable on the trade market. You'd have a lot of teams' interest. Basically, there's no team that's like, oh, no, we don't need a Joe Ryan. So there would be incredibly competitive for him. But, pitchers get injured a lot, but you could have the same conversation at the deadline next year. Teams aren't going to give you as much for a half season of Joe Ryan as they would for a season and a half. That's true. But I think it's worth it to keep Joe Ryan, to one, see if you can do anything this year, two, give yourself a better chance in 2027. And if that doesn't work out, you can trade him at next year's deadline anyway. So it's not like you're really at line in the sand, decision time with Joe Ryan right now. You can kind of kick that can down the road. And I also just think that would send such a bad signal to, again, the fan base and the clubhouse. How are you going to look Byron Buxton in the eye if you trade Joe Ryan away? You know, like when is the next window you're looking at that point? Are you, is it even 2028? Is it 2029? Anyway, that is where I'm thinking at the moment. Check out Limestone Pipeline for a lot of draft and prospect list talk. That was this week. We rolled out our updated top 20 articles and podcasts on that. So check those out over on Patreon. Two of those are free. Half of them are free. So even if you are not interested in paying the $4 a month for that, there is plenty of free stuff for everybody we put out on Patreon, Jamie and I. But thanks for checking this one out. We'll talk again soon.